Listen to me. Your life is waiting for you to claim it. Most people drift through their days playing small, shrinking their dreams to fit their fears. But not you, not anymore. You were not born to survive. You were born to expand, to create, to rise. Every great dream begins with a decision. The decision to stop settling and start soaring. The moment you decide that enough is enough, life moves to meet you halfway. The universe responds to boldness, not hesitation. Right now, there's a fire in your heart that's been dimmed by doubt, by comfort, by the opinions of others. But deep down, you know you're meant for more. So today, I challenge you, wake up the giant inside you. Don't just dream. Dream bigger than fear. Act faster than doubt. And live greater than excuses. Your time isn't next year. It's not someday. It's now. Because the future doesn't belong to the timid. It belongs to the ones who dream so big they scare themselves all and then go after it anyway. Turn your someday into today. Because the truth is, there is no magical tomorrow waiting to rescue you. We've been conditioned to believe that someday we'll chase that dream, someday we'll start that business, someday we'll love fully, live boldly, and become who we were meant to be. But someday is a trap. It's the comfortable illusion we build to protect ourselves from failure, rejection, and the fear of not being enough. It's the silent killer of potential, the invisible chain that keeps people living the same year on repeat and calling it a life. Men and women both fall into this pattern, but they do it differently. Men often tell themselves they'll act when the time is right, when the finances line up, when the plan is perfect. They hide hesitation behind logic, but what they're really protecting is their ego from the sting of uncertainty. Women, on the other hand, often wait until they feel ready, until they believe they're qualified enough, confident enough, strong enough to step forward. But readiness is a myth. It's a comfort zone dressed up as preparation. You don't get ready to live your dream, you get ready by living it. The secret most people never learn is that momentum doesn't come from knowing everything, it comes from moving before you feel ready. The second you take a real step, no matter how small your brain shifts, you start proving to yourself that change is possible. Action rewires identity. Every time you move, your mind begins to believe, I am the kind of person who follows through. And that belief is the seed of transformation. Fear disguises itself as logic. It whispers, wait until you have more time, more money, more clarity. But clarity doesn't come from waiting, it comes from doing. You find direction in motion, not in hesitation. Men who chase their goals learn to channel their drive, their hunger, their instinct to conquer, not against others, but against the limitations of their old selves. Women who chase their dreams learn to turn doubt into intuition, nurturing their courage instead of suppressing it. Both must meet in the middle, drive and grace, logic and emotion, power and purpose to live fully awake. Every person has a clock ticking inside them. You feel it when you lie awake at night thinking about what could be. That's your soul reminding you that time is not infinite. You don't get to control how long you live, but you do control how deeply you live. Waiting for the perfect time is like waiting for permission to breathe. You don't need anyone's approval to start. The moment you say, I'm ready, and mean it, life rearranges itself around that conviction. The people who transform their lives aren't necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who finally decide that someday is no longer acceptable. They trade excuses for execution. They stop wishing and start working. They understand that progress doesn't wait for hesitation. And the moment they do, the world begins to move with them. Dreams without action are just wishes, and wishes don't change lives, actions do. You can have the most vivid vision, the most detailed dream board, and the strongest intention in the world. But if you don't move, if you don't execute, nothing shifts. The universe doesn't respond to thought alone, it responds to motion. Every great transformation begins not with an idea, but with a decision backed by movement. Dreams are the spark, but action is the flame that turns imagination into reality. For men, the trap is often hiding behind strategy, convincing themselves they're planning, analyzing, or preparing when what they're really doing is hesitating. It feels productive, but it's just perfectionism wearing a mask. They want to make sure the outcome is certain before they take the risk. But certainty never comes first. Action creates certainty. For women, the challenge often lies in the emotional weight of overthinking. They imagine every possible outcome, every potential failure, every judgment that could come their way. They feel deeply, but sometimes that depth turns into delay. The mind becomes a battlefield between desire and doubt, between potential and permission. Action is the bridge between who you are and who you're meant to become. You can't think your way into confidence. You build it by doing the very thing you're afraid of. Each step, no matter how uncomfortable, builds momentum. Every moment of discomfort is a seed of strength. When you take action, you're not just chasing a dream, you're reshaping your identity. You start proving to yourself that you can be the kind of person who follows through, who doesn't wait for motivation, but creates it through discipline. Most people underestimate how powerful one decision can be. They think change has to be massive, dramatic, or perfectly timed, when in reality it starts with one simple act of courage, sending the message, taking the class, making the call, showing up even when no one's watching. The smallest consistent action will always outperform the biggest unfulfilled dream. Motion creates progress, and progress builds belief. It's that belief that fuels the next step, and suddenly you're no longer chasing a dream. You're living it. Both men and women need to understand that the dream is not enough. It's the follow-through that matters. Men must learn that execution isn't weakness, it's ownership. To act is to take command of your destiny. Women must realize that they don't need every answer to begin. To move is to declare to the world, I trust myself. Both must rise beyond the need for approval and lean into the power of action, because the world doesn't reward intentions, it rewards results. Every time you take a step, you disrupt the pattern of hesitation that holds so many people back. You stop waiting for life to happen to you and start making it happen through you. Dreams only become real when you breathe life into them through action, through effort, through a relentless commitment to move even when it's hard, even when no one believes in you yet. Because when you act, you awaken possibility. And when you keep acting, you build a life greater than you ever dared to dream. Comfort is the enemy of greatness because nothing extraordinary is ever born in the land of the familiar. The human mind is designed to seek safety, to protect, to preserve, to maintain balance. But that same instinct, left unchecked, becomes a prison. Comfort whispers that you're doing fine, that you've earned a break, that maybe tomorrow is a better day to start. But every time you choose ease over effort, you trade your potential for a moment of relief. Comfort feels good now, but it costs you later. Growth doesn't come from sitting still. It comes from stretching, from facing resistance, from daring to go where most people won't. Men often equate comfort with control. They want to feel certain, secure, and in command before they take the next step. The problem is, control and growth rarely coexist. The more control you demand, the smaller your world becomes. To achieve greatness, a man must be willing to feel uncertain, to step into arenas where he doesn't yet have mastery. That's where strength is built. The discomfort of not knowing, of failing, of being tested is the furnace where true confidence is forged. Without challenge, discipline weakens. Without resistance, power fades. Women, on the other hand, are often taught to find comfort and approval, to seek harmony, to avoid judgment, to play small so no one feels threatened. But the path to greatness demands a different kind of courage, the courage to be seen, to take up space, to break patterns that generations have reinforced. Discomfort for a woman often comes disguised as guilt. Guilt for wanting more, for prioritizing herself, for dreaming bigger than what's expected. But that discomfort is not a warning, it's a signal. It's the universe calling her to rise, to step out of the shadows of comfort and into the light of her potential. Comfort numbs ambition. It makes you forget how powerful you really are. You get used to routine, to habits that ask nothing of you, to the quiet sedation of the average. The danger isn't failure, it's comfort convincing you that you're okay staying where you are. Every person has a breaking point, a moment where comfort becomes suffocating and the soul starts to rebel. That's the moment when true transformation begins, when you decide that peace without progress is no longer acceptable. Discomfort is not your enemy, it's your invitation. It's the signal that you're alive, growing, expanding beyond your limits. The pain of growth is never permanent, but the regret of staying comfortable always is. When you choose discomfort deliberately, when you face the fear, take the risk, and step forward anyway, you start to build a new standard for yourself. You reprogram your mind to see challenge as fuel. Both men and women must learn to reinterpret discomfort as progress. The burn in your body, the tension in your mind, the uncertainty in your path, they're all signs that you're evolving. The more you seek comfort, the more life becomes predictable. The more you embrace discomfort, the more life becomes limitless. Greatness doesn't live in safety. It lives in the unknown, in the moments that demand more than you thought you had and reveal more than you ever knew was inside you. Rewrite the story you tell yourself, because the narrative running through your mind shapes the reality you live every single day. Every human being is walking around with a script, a collection of beliefs, memories, and meanings that define what they think is possible. That story determines how much they love, how hard they fight, how far they go. Most people don't even realize they're trapped inside a story they didn't write. They inherited it from their past, their environment, their failures, and the voices that once told them what they could or couldn't be. But the truth is, your story isn't fixed, it's flexible. And the moment you change what you believe about who you are, everything else begins to shift. Men often write stories of pressure, stories of having to be strong and provide, to lead without breaking. They grow up believing that emotions are weaknesses, that failure means they're not enough, that vulnerability is something to hide. Over time, those stories become walls that block connection, passion, and authenticity. The same strength that could build empires gets buried under the weight of perfection. But when a man learns to rewrite that story, when he replaces, "I must have it all figured out," with "I am powerful because I grow through uncertainty," he becomes unstoppable. He stops performing strength and starts living it. Women, on the other hand, often carry stories of limitation, stories that whisper, "Be smaller, be careful, don't outshine." They internalize expectations to please, to nurture, to play roles that keep the peace. But those roles can become cages, keeping their greatness quiet and their confidence dim. The inner voice becomes an echo of doubt. Who am I to dream that big? The shift happens when a woman begins to rewrite her story from worthiness. When she says, "I am not asking for permission to be more, I am remembering that I always was," her new story becomes a declaration, one that redefines power as grace, ambition as love, and success as authenticity. The mind doesn't just record what happens, it interprets it. Every experience gets assigned meaning, and that meaning becomes your personal mythology. Two people can face the same challenge. One sees failure, the other sees feedback. One sees rejection, the other sees redirection. The difference isn't in circumstance, it's in the story. When you change the meaning, you change the outcome. And that power is always in your hands. What you repeatedly tell yourself becomes your identity. Say, "I'm not confident long enough," and you'll stop trying. Say, "I always mess up," and your brain will make it true. But the opposite is also possible. You can rewire your mind by repetition, by affirming new truths until they become your reality. Every thought plants a seed, and the story you tell is the soil that either nourishes or poisons your potential. Rewriting your story isn't about pretending your past didn't happen. It's about giving it a new meaning. It's about turning pain into purpose, failure into foundation, and fear into fire. It's the decision to no longer live from memory, but from vision. Because the story that got you here doesn't have to be the one that takes you forward. Feed the vision, starve the fear. Because whatever you nourish in your mind will eventually take control of your life. Every day you're feeding something, your dream or your doubt, your courage or your comfort, your faith or your fear. The thoughts you repeat, the emotions you dwell in, and the stories you believe all shape the world you experience. Fear is like a parasite. It grows stronger the more attention you give it. Vision, on the other hand, expands only when you pour belief, focus, and energy into it. The difference between the life you have and the life you want lies in which one you choose to feed. Men often feed fear by disguising it as logic. They tell themselves they're being realistic or strategic, but deep down, it's hesitation wearing a mask. Fear convinces them that they need more proof before they act, more certainty before they leap. But greatness has never come from waiting for evidence. It comes from becoming the evidence. The moment a man feeds his vision with action, he reclaims his power. He stops letting doubt dictate direction and starts trusting his own momentum. Fear loses its hold the second he chooses forward motion over safety. Women experience fear differently. It often shows up as self-doubt. It hides behind perfectionism, comparison, and the quiet worry of not being enough. Fear convinces them to question their worth, to soften their voice, to wait until they feel ready. But readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. When a woman feeds her vision, she begins to drown out the noise of fear with the clarity of purpose. She learns that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the mastery of it. Each time she steps forward despite trembling hands, she's teaching her mind that her faith is stronger than her fear. The mind is a garden, and fear is the weed that grows wild if left unchecked. Every time you focus on what might go wrong, you strengthen that weed. Every time you visualize what could go right, you strengthen the roots of your dream. Feeding the vision means surrounding yourself with the right influences, with people, habits, and environments that remind you of possibility. It means talking to yourself like someone worth believing in, even when the results haven't shown up yet. Fear will always whisper, what if you fail? Vision counters with, what if this changes everything? Fear says, you're not ready. Vision replies, you're already becoming. The conversation never stops, but the one you feed will always win. The human brain doesn't care whether your thoughts are empowering or destructive. It just amplifies what you repeat. That's why you must consciously direct your focus toward growth, purpose, and creation. Feeding the vision means acting like the future you desire already exists, because the more you align your thoughts and behavior with it, the faster it becomes real. Starving the fear means refusing to entertain its lies, refusing to let comfort keep you small, refusing to let hesitation control your destiny. Every time you choose to believe in your vision more than your fear, you strengthen the muscle of faith. And over time, that faith becomes momentum, that momentum becomes power, and that power becomes the life you were born to live. Live like you've already won, because the energy you project before success is what pulls success towards you. Most people live as if they're waiting for permission to feel proud, confident, or fulfilled, as if joy is something they can only access after the goal is achieved. But the truth is, you don't attract victory by waiting for it. You attract it by embodying it. When you begin to think, feel, and act like the person who has already achieved what you desire, your mindset shifts, your physiology changes, and your actions align with power instead of fear. You begin living from a place of abundance, not desperation, and that changes everything. Men are often taught that winning comes only after the grind, that success must be earned through struggle, sacrifice, and sheer willpower. While effort is necessary, this mindset can trap them in a constant loop of chasing, never arriving, never allowing themselves to feel successful until the world validates them. But true greatness begins when a man learns to operate from certainty, not from need. When he carries himself as if he's already capable, already worthy, already equipped, he stops casing validation and starts commanding results. He no longer moves with tension or insecurity, he moves with conviction. That shift in energy turns him from a seeker into a leader. Women, on the other hand, often hesitate to step into that victorious energy because they've been conditioned to fear being too confident or too much. They hold back their power, waiting for proof that they're ready. But living like you've already won doesn't mean arrogance, it means alignment. It's the embodiment of self-belief before the evidence arrives. When a woman decides to move through life as if her dreams are inevitable, she activates a different energy, one that draws opportunities, people, and possibilities toward her. Confidence becomes her magnet, not her mask. She no longer hopes she'll succeed, she assumes she will. The human brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and experience. It believes what you repeatedly visualize and feel. When you live as if you've already won, you are programming your mind for success. You begin to see yourself making better decisions, taking bolder actions, and responding to challenges with calm authority. That inner state of victory becomes the blueprint that your outer world starts to match. You stop doubting your worth because you're no longer negotiating with it. You've already claimed it. Fear thrives on uncertainty, but when you live like a winner, fear loses its power. Winners don't waste energy worrying about what might go wrong. They focus on what they can create next. They walk differently, speak differently, breathe differently. Their focus is not on proving themselves, but on expressing themselves. Living from that mindset transforms effort into expression and grind into flow. When you live like you've already won, you stop waiting for external rewards to validate your internal power. You realize that the game isn't about achieving something outside of you, it's about awakening what's already within you. That mindset changes how you show up in every area, in relationships, work, growth, and purpose. You stop reacting to life and start directing it. You don't just chase dreams, you embody them, and through that embodiment, you turn vision into reality.